Housing prices are still increasing. How is that even possible? We've cost of living increases, we've interest rate hikes. Surely that means buyers have less spending power, right? We also have a war, currency turmoil, the UK is losing the plot, and a whole host of markets, property markets, are losing value all over the world. But how is it that the CSO has just reported the highest month this year for residential property price increases? The data from the CSO may have surprised a lot of people. The data is about 2 months behind the market, and I would never rely on an index for valuing property, but it is a kind of an indicator in terms of where the general trends are going. The CSO figures are based on actual sales completions and not asking prices. We did have 6 consecutive months of price increases being less than 1% per month for the start of the year, and the trend was a downward curve. But we've now had 3 consecutive months of price increases being over 1% June, July and August. Therefore, a shift in the trend. These prices would have perhaps been agreed earlier in the year and are only being completed now, but take it into account that these prices were likely agreed when a war was outbreaking and we had our very first interest rate hikes. So far this year, prices have increased by 6.6% this year from January to August 2022. This is lower than the same period last year, where prices increased by 8.3%. So a lower growth rate for the first 8 months of the year compared to last year in the same period. Last year I predicted that residential prices would probably increase by about 5% for the entire year of 2022. And I suggested that prices would probably increase in the first half of the year, then settle a little bit, and we may have a few months of negative growth towards the end of the year. And that still may happen. This video is not a prediction video for next year. It's more of a market snapshot. I will be putting out a video in the next few months in regards to my predictions for the market for 2023. So make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss that. Talking about subscribing, it does take a lot of motivation for me to keep pumping out videos on this channel. I'm nearly at 3 years at this point, and it would mean a lot to me if you do subscribe to the channel. Every subscriber does give me a little bit more motivation to keep going, and it would mean a hell of a lot to me to reach 10,000 before the end of the year, even perhaps an early Christmas present. So if you're not subscribing already, please hit that subscribe button. If you are already subscribing and get a lot of value out of this channel, please suggest it to friends. Okay, so back to the market. Dublin first. The average completed price over the last 12 months has just been over 500,000. The average asking price at the moment in Dublin is 516,000. However, this is down about 5% from last month. However, a word of warning about this, don't read too much into this, and I will explain that in a second. The number of houses for sale in the Dublin market at the moment is just below 5,000. This is about a 3% increase on last month and about a 13.3% increase over the last 6 months, which is a slight positive for any buyer out there. However, the demand index for Dublin is still extremely high. There is a lot of buyers still out there. The vast majority of the stock in the Dublin market at the moment sits between about 200,000 and 480,000. There's very limited stock over the 700 mark. A large volume of the stock that's coming onto the market at the moment is landlords selling old apartments. Very few families are selling homes that are over the 700,000 mark. On a national level, sales price over the last 12 months has been approximately 331,000. The current average asking price is now at 352,000. However, that dropped by about 8.8% last month. I would take that average asking price with a pinch of salt because I don't like looking at average prices all too much. It can swing too much depending on what actually comes onto the market from month to month. I wouldn't read massively into that asking price drop either, because generally in September and October a lot of properties do come to the market and they're replacing properties that have been sitting on the market for a few months, and there will be a lot of price adjustments at that period of time. The average asking price will also be affected because the base number of 16,000 units on the market has suddenly jumped up to 20,000 units, and that's going to impact the average as well. There are currently just over 21,000 units on the market at the moment. That's up about 1% on last month and about 12% over the last 6 months. The number of sales being completed is around 4,000 to 5,000 per month, and this is in line with probably historical averages on a month-to-month basis when you take out the COVID years. So the volume of monthly transactions is getting back to normal. Supply is improving, but I still see it being a major issue for some time to come. There will be lots of people who are potentially thinking about selling, who are locked in or have nice interest rates on their homes right now, and if they were to opt to sell, they'd be forced into a higher interest rate, and therefore their buying power would actually be reduced, and a lot of those potential sellers will decide to hold on to their existing property for the moment, and therefore supply on that side of the sector won't jump dramatically quickly. As we all know, construction costs are skyrocketing. There's many people in the industry that are hearing rumors and whispers that lots of developers are deciding not to break ground on new housing developments at the moment. Many believe that this could be down to developers thinking that there is going to be a cool down in the market or the market might crash. However, generally speaking, a huge amount of these decisions are being made by developers because the cost of construction has increased so greatly that a lot of these new housing developments are no longer feasible to actually break ground at the moment. This will have an impact on new homes coming to the market over the next 2 to 3 years. On the demand side, buying power is dropping with inflation and interest rate hikes. However, banks are still willing to lend, and generally speaking, interest rates are still quite low from a historical point of view. The population is growing and people need somewhere to live. Finding a place to rent is getting harder and harder, and rents are actually more expensive than mortgage repayments, and therefore a lot of people still want to buy. I'm briefly going to talk about the commercial sector, so don't go anywhere, because the commercial sector does have an impact on housing market, and it has a far bigger impact on housing market than it did 10 years ago. There was a big international commercial investment event and expose over in Germany last week, and lots of Irish agents, commercial agents, did travel over. And the kind of feedback I'm hearing from lots of them that did travel over is that the interest in Ireland from investors, from international investors, is still quite high, and there was a lot of people asking about investing in Ireland. Some people might look at this as a good thing, others will see it as a negative. I myself see it as a positive. The fact that international investors still see Ireland as a good place to invest bodes well for Ireland's future. But maybe share your views on this in the comments below. Back to housing, I do think that we'll see some additional supply come onto the market outside of Dublin, and there will be some price corrections outside of Dublin over the next few months. I also think that there might be a slightly two-tier market in the months to come, in regards to the lower end of the market will be impacted more by inflationary costs and also interest rate hikes. I am hearing from a lot of agents that at the higher end of the market there are still potentially lots of cash buyers out there, and therefore that won't be as impacted by interest rate hikes. But this will be interesting to see how it all plays out. As I mentioned, this is not my prediction video. I will have that out in a few months. I won't get everything right, but I'd love to hear from you guys in terms of what you think might happen to the property market over the next year. Please put your comments below, and perhaps I might be able to add some of those comments into the next video as well. As always, I just want to say thanks for watching, and there are some additional links below.